Hi, this is Alessio. Hope you're well, and welcome to a brand new update on gold and Bitcoin. And the reason I want to mention gold in this specific video is because of the major breakout that has occurred, as you can see here, on gold, which is skyrocketing at the present moment. So we'll talk about that in a few moments. And also in this video, I'm going to play you a very interesting and fascinating clip of my interview with top trader Peter Brandt. And in that interview, I asked Peter some important questions about both gold and Bitcoin. So you want to make sure you stick around for that, because I asked Peter some important questions about both gold and Bitcoin. And also I asked Peter when he's going to become interested in buying gold again. So that's later in this video. Before I go into that though, I just want to first of all mention a few things about the chart of gold. So as you can see here, gold, as a matter of fact, broke a key trendline resistance. In fact, we just connect these highs, depending on where you draw it from, those highs or indeed these highs, we can see that gold, in fact, managed to finally break through that trendline resistance with momentum, pulse momentum. It has become a bit overbought here, but it has also come against some important resistance levels. So you can see a previous resistance, current moment of 1336, 1340. Now you might say this chart looks great in hindsight, but as a matter of fact, last week in our members video, I mentioned why potentially gold could break out to the upside. In fact, as you can see here, here's our members video from last week. Let me play you a clip, a very short clip of my members video from last week and what we said about gold at the time. Because some sideways movement happening on the weekly time frames with increasing momentum. So it looks as though the bulls are for the moment protecting support on gold. All we need to wait and see is if we can get a breakout and a close above resistance. First resistance could be 1290. If we can close above 1290 at a minimum, that could open the door towards a movement towards 1300. But a close above 1300 is the minimum we would have to wait and see before we can see that this correction potentially has finalized on the gold market. In other words, a close above 1290 and then followed by a close above 1300 is what we need to see at a minimum on gold before we can see a potential new rally developing towards the 1340, 1350 levels. All right, guys, so that was the members video from last week. The main point is that gold is now coming across some important resistance. In fact, as you can see here, this is the monthly chart. This is the long-term monthly chart of gold, and it's coming against some important resistance levels. Previous highs, in fact, are coming very close now on gold. Now, in my interview with Peter Brandt, trader Peter Brandt, I asked him about this. I showed him this chart, this long-term chart of gold on the monthly chart, and I asked his opinion about it, and I asked him when he's considering buying gold again. And I also asked Peter what his opinion is about both gold and Bitcoin. So here's that part of the interview. Let me play it for you. In this video, what I want to talk about with Peter is gold. Many have been asking what's going on with gold. And what seems to be happening is gold is stuck in this sideways range for some years. It can't break out of that range for some reason. I want to ask what Peter thinks. By the way, Peter, I have a friend who's a good friend and also another chart analyst, Zach Meir. And he said that Bitcoin has done or is going to do what gold did not do. Because everyone was expecting gold go to 10,000 back in 2011. You remember when gold was in a massive bubble? Everyone was saying, yeah, next target, 10,000 on gold. But the interesting thing is Zach said, well, Bitcoin has done, or maybe he's going to do even better. The Bitcoin has done something that gold just did not do and could potentially do better than gold. What is your take on gold, and how do you compare that with Bitcoin, I guess my question?
Well, I mean, I compare them both, and to some degree, that they tend to be driven more by psychology. Certainly, we have physical gold in the world. We mine it, we store it, but for all practical purposes, there's really no use for it other than collecting dust in a warehouse, in a secured warehouse. I mean, certainly some gold is used for commercial reasons. But for the most part, it's it's stuck in bars and it's stacked up like a bunch of bricks in a warehouse. So its price largely is dependent upon what people think it's worth, and so there's some similarities between the two. And I know you're going to get a chart on it that I'm going to want to make some comments on, but so they're very similar to that degree. That for the most part, there's not been a lot of commercial, institutional use of Bitcoin. It's pretty much been a bet on the come. But if you see the gold market, that's what I'm talking about. Is we topped in gold in 2011, and have come down. And people are saying, well, gold never went to where it should have gone. But I'll make the case that gold did exactly, in some ways, what Bitcoin did. Is gold also had a parabolic advance that was
Yeah.
broken, and has not had an 80% correction. And most violated parabolic advances have an 80% correction, and gold
That's
has
true.
not.
That's a good point actually you make there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're
So
saying whereas Bitcoin had an 85 or 80% correction, gold didn't do that. Gold approximately was it 50% or 45%?
it's actually a little less than 50%
Yeah.
in terms of back to zero. You can always look at it in terms of where from the previous wave or Elliott wave point. You can look at it that way, but at least back to zero, it hasn't. So, but gold, I just think gold is worth what people think gold is worth, and it's the best metal to be used in some commercial applications, and some in many cases commercially it's the best. It's the best physical element that can be used, but very little of it's used for whatever that purpose is. And so gold has been locked in this trading range since coming off the 2011 bull market highs, and it hasn't gone anywhere. And people get all excited and worked up over gold, like here we go. It starts going and it fails. And so as a classical chartist, I'm really not interested in gold until I see it go through 1400. I become interested in gold at that price.
Do you think gold is being manipulated in any way?
No, I do not. There are a lot of people that accuse gold of that, and they point to the COMEX or the NYMEX delivery process. And yeah, in my opinion, people that claim markets are manipulated, it's pretty easy that they're the people that lost money in that market. Seldom do you hear people that have done real well in the market claim that market is manipulated. It's usually the people that lost a lot, and they're blaming the market for their losses rather than themselves. They haven't grown up and become men or real women and taken responsibility for their losses. Once they do that, they won't think gold's manipulated, but they think they were manipulated by themselves. And so, no, I don't think gold's manipulated. Are all markets monkeyed around with a little bit? Of course they are. There's hanky-pank that goes on in every market. But is price manipulated because it hasn't been able to get going off of the bear market low we had? No. I mean, in due time, it'll do what it does, but it's going to do what it does based on underlying reasons to gold, not based on the manipulation that people claim is happening.
So basically, your thinking is that we could be stuck in this range for some time on gold between the support and resistance levels. And do you see a scenario where gold actually, I mean, I know you're a probabilities guy. How much probability would you give to gold testing once again the 1,000 levels? I mean, I'll just give you one scenario. What if Bitcoin does so tremendously well? What if Bitcoin continues to go parabolically higher that people say, hey, you know what? I'm done with gold. Forget that. I'm going into Bitcoin. And we've seen people actually, I mean, there's a kind of a theory. I don't know if this theory has been substantiated, but it's plausible. I think it could be true. A lot of the folks who used to be in gold are moving into Bitcoin because the same kind of people, Peter, the same kind of anti-establishment, anti-fiat currency folks. And these people who, again, despise fiat currency, probably for good reason and whatever, they're moving away from gold and they're moving into Bitcoin. We've seen commercials on television, adverts. There's a new movement called, there's an advert called Drop Gold, hashtag Drop Gold or something like that. And I'm not supporting this advert. I'm just saying I'm not supporting it. I'm not proponent. I'm just saying, do you think that as a scenario that gold might drop, people moving away from gold and going into Bitcoin, that might cause a drop of some sort? I don't know.
I don't know. I've always had a problem with that. Is people say, well, crude oil dropped, therefore the yen must do that, and gold's going to do this, and the stock market's going to do that, and they look at one chart on one day and build this massive global macro narrative based on that. I've never been a believer of that. I'm a believer of trading each market on the basis of its own chart. So I'll trade Bitcoin based on the Bitcoin chart. I have never had very much success putting an order in the gold pit and having the execution made in cryptos. You know, when I put an order in gold, I get a fill in gold. When I put an order in Bitcoin, I get a fill in Bitcoin. So I'm going to trade one market based on its own chart, another market based on its own chart. I just think a person gets himself into a paper bag they can't get out of when they start getting too complicated and creating these multi-market scenarios. I'd like to avoid that kind of thinking.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks very much, Peter.
All right, guys, thank you very much for watching this video. I do appreciate it. Before I finish, I just want to ask you a huge favor, which is quite important. I've heard that quite soon YouTube is about to make some important changes to its algorithm, so it's quite likely that in a few weeks you might not see my videos appearing on your YouTube feed. So what I would highly recommend, and what I really ask you to do, please, is if you haven't done this already, please make sure you click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button, because when you click the bell icon, that ensures that you're notified every time we post or indeed publish a new video. If you have not clicked on the bell icon, it's likely you will not see my videos coming up on your feed. So please do that. I really appreciate it. Thanks very much indeed. I'll see you guys in the next video.